is Angela Pao-Johnson, and I'm the Executive Director of North Los Angeles County Regional Center. Thank you so much for joining us in Voices in Action, our podcast where we raise up the voices of those supporters in our developmentally disabled community. I'm so happy to be joined today by Assemblyman Juan Carrillo, who represents California Assembly's 39th District. His constituents make up northern Antelope Valley, Palmdale, and Lancaster, and stretches all the way to San Bernardino County in areas such as Hesperia and Victorville. Assemblyman Carrillo has had an illustrious career in public service. He started off as a city council member in Palmdale, and he has strong foundations in urban planning. One of the things that struck me the most when I was reviewing your background is how your background in urban planning really shapes the work that you do. When I was reviewing the committees that you serve and also the policies that you've authored, what I found to be really commendable is you're not just looking at funding, but you're looking at systems changes to make sure that it really resonates and helps the communities that we serve. So I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here with you and talk about the things that I'm passionate about, representing the 39th Assembly District, my upbringings, my experience, and the way that I see the opportunities that we have in the High Desert. Yeah.
Fantastic. So I was hoping to start maybe at the beginning.
Sure.
You and I have similar backgrounds in the sense that we were both immigrants.
Okay.
And so you immigrated to Los Angeles when you were 15 from Mexico.
Right.
And since then, you currently are the vice chair of the California Latino Legislative Caucus.
Right.
And I guess what I'm wondering is how your background shapes the work that you do.
Okay. Well, yes, I did come to California and landed in East LA in 1988. I was 15 at the time. Came from Guadalajara to join my mom and my dad, who had been here previously to me. We left the siblings in Guadalajara with grandma, and the following year, 1989, my dad was able to get the entire family here in East LA.
Oh, great.
So that's how we got here. But as you know, in the Latino culture, we start working at a really young age. So I came here to work at 15 years old, going to work during the day, going to school at night. I did go to Garfield High School in East LA. I went there to take their ESL program, where I started to learn English, and also the beginning of my GED classes, and then high school diploma, and an associate of science in architecture, and then a bachelor's degree, and then a master's degree. But I never, ever imagined that I'd be in the political world. That didn't really happen until we moved here to Palmdale in 2005. Yeah.
And I guess what I'm wondering is what, during that move, what happened in 2005 that maybe shaped your focus to be more political?
Well, in 2005, I was about to finish my bachelor's degree in urban and regional planning from Cal Poly Pomona. I started looking for a full-time job in cities, all the way from Carlsbad, all the way to Lancaster to right here, and cities in between. So I remember the day that I came up this way, I applied for the city of Victorville, and then I headed on to Palmdale and then Lancaster to apply. Not being familiar with the High Desert, I went to Victorville up the 15 freeway, then I took the 138, the 18 to the 138, and I thought it was too far. I kind of felt lost, honestly, because I've never been up here. So I stopped at a gas station in Lake LA, in Little Rock. Stopped at a gas station, and then I asked the attendant, how much further to Palmdale? And I remember he said, it's not much further, just go straight and you'll get there in maybe 5-10 minutes. So I said, okay. But I honestly thought of turning back and just going back to where I came from, because I thought it was too far. But nevertheless, I did come to Palmdale. I submitted my application. Back then there was no online, nothing like that. It was on paper still. So applied for the city of Palmdale for a planning technician position. And then I came to Lancaster and applied for a planning A position that they had open. This was 2005, and if you remember, in 2005, there was a lot of growth up here. a lot of housing development, commercial development. There was a lot of development up here. So when I applied, I went back, and then I got a call a couple of days later from the city of Palmdale that offered me an interview. Obviously, I was really excited. At the time, we were married with 2 kids. We had my oldest one, who was maybe 12, 13, and then the middle one, who was just born, actually, about a month or so. So anyway, I come to Palmdale. They offered me an interview, and a couple of days later, they called me back, and they made me an offer for the job, which again was really excited for our family. And a couple of days later, the city of Lancaster called me too, to offer me a job too. But I already had accepted the offer with the city of Palmdale, and we moved here in 2005 for the job. And here we are. So the political alignment didn't really happen because that's what I was looking for. When my son was 7, 8 in 2012, 2013, I was looking for a soccer team for him. Soccer is a big thing in our culture. So I thought he was ready for the introduction of the sport. So I started asking, what are the soccer teams playing here? So they told me, go to the Lancaster soccer fields and talk to so-and-so, and they'll see if there's a chance for your son to get into the team. So I did that. Coming to the practices, Monday, Wednesday, whatever days they were, I don't really remember, but twice a week, and then the games on Saturdays. One of the parents started to be really friendly with me, started talking to me, what I did, what I have a degree on, where do I work, things that I didn't really think anything of. Just parents watching the kids practice soccer, doing the game too. And then one day he told me that he was the president for the Palmdale Elementary Teachers Association, the teachers union. And then he tells me, we're having trouble with the school board in Palmdale. We're trying to see if we can get new board members, and so that we can do better as teachers. And I had no idea what a school board was. I guess in school, 2 of them. But I had to learn quickly. He told me what it was, and they coached me to go through the process. Needless to say that I said yes to be a candidate for the Palmdale School District. At the time, we had 3 candidates, myself and 2 other ones. They were hoping to get 2 seats, on the board. And we got all 3 of us elected. It was just the 3 new members coming in. We flipped the board. We made some positive changes, in my opinion. We got a new superintendent, who, by the way, is still there.
Oh, fantastic.
Raul Maldonado, who has been there for since 2014, I believe it was. Still working for the city of Palmdale. Was there for 3 years, and then the Voters' Right Act lawsuit came to the city of Palmdale, and the city of Palmdale was forced to go into districts for the first time. So me having worked for the city of Palmdale for 10 years at the time, I was also asked if I would consider running for office as a council member for the city of Palmdale. The city again went into districts for the first time, 5 districts, 5 seats up for grabs. And living on the east side of Palmdale, we had no representation on the east side. The mayor, I believe, lived in the east side for a little bit. So that opened up an opportunity for me to run for council for the city of Palmdale for District 4, which is the east side. But what that meant is that I could no longer work for the city of Palmdale, right? Because I was running for office to be a council member. So I started looking for a job, and because I went to College of the Desert to get my Associate of Arts in Architecture, I ended up getting a job for the city of Coachella. So I worked for the city of Coachella for 6 years. I got elected to the Palmdale City Council. My first term was for 2 years because the seats had to be staggered. And it just so happened that District 3 and 4 had to be 2 years, and then the others 4 years. Then in 2018, I ran for re-election, and I got reelected for the City of Palmdale Council for a full four-year term. Then 2022, this opportunity came about for the Assembly. Through the redistricting process, they created a new district, which is the one that I represent now. And in 2022, I got elected to be in the State Assembly. So that's kind of the path that I got to be here. Again, I never thought in my wildest dreams that I would be doing what I'm doing. But being in public service as a government employee, working as a city planner, then as a board member, and then as a council member, and I was a legislator. And that's just how I got to be an assembly representative for the 39th Assembly District.
I really appreciate that. It's so interesting that it seemed like these doors that you didn't intentionally try to open just emerged for you because there was a need. And they saw a personality and a skill set that fit that need. So I think that's just really great in regards to how you illustrated your progression into where we are right now.
Yeah.
One of the things that you said in 2005 that there were a lot of development in this area. Do you feel that there is still a lot of opportunities here in this area to be developed, are constantly being developed, or do you think that has plateaued quite a bit?
No, I mean, it's slowed down a little bit, certainly, but it still continues to be developed. I mean, people are still moving up here. There's still some single-family home being built, and people from down below, as we say up here, they still find housing more affordable. And that's really a big word, right, affordability. What does that mean? Homes here maybe between 400, 500,000 maybe right now, the average. But when you compare that price to homes in LA, San Fernando Valley, don't go too far away to LA, but you'll be lucky to get a home for $900,000 in a much, much smaller home too, and a much older home too. So this in the Antelope Valley, the high desert continues to be a place where people want to move up because of that affordability in housing. But obviously, we pay a price for that. We come up here, we buy a house, we are lucky enough to afford a lower price home. But being on the freeway 2 hours, getting down to LA or San Fernando in the mornings and coming back in the afternoon takes even longer. And I know that because I get on the freeways at 5 in the morning on Mondays. And you can see the 14 freeway at 5 a.m. being already packed, going south. Coming back on Thursday, when we come back from the legislature and driving up here on Thursday afternoon, it takes a little longer to get up here. My point is that there's a lot of opportunity with the continued single-family home buildings that are coming this way. We continue to have a challenge in having good jobs up here. I think that we're making progress. Not only we are lucky enough to have the aerospace industry here, as you know, with Northrop Grumman and all those other ones, there's a little bit of commercial development going on. With Trader Joe's being here now with a 1 million square foot center where they distribute to all their stores. That creates some jobs. But again, when we are the community that drives the most down to LA, and the traffic on the 14 being recognized as the worst in the nation, not only in California, I think that we have the challenges ahead to be able to not only attract those better paying jobs up here, but also better modes of public transportation too.
So I think you segue perfectly into one of the questions that we had wanted to ask you. You are on many committees, and one of those is the Transportation Committee. And one of the things that you had mentioned is that in communities that are a little bit more remote, such as the Antelope Valley, it is very difficult because there are long drives, it's harder to access jobs, healthcare, all of those things. So I guess one of the questions that we have is, what do you see as the most essential next steps to make transportation more accessible and equitable, especially for individuals with developmental disabilities that have additional challenges as well?
Yeah. Well, we know that technology is getting us to the driverless cars. We're starting to see Waymos now in LA. I actually saw one on a freeway too, which is a new target for them to be able to be on the highway. So for those type of passengers or residents that have those challenges, I think that is going to be an advantage once we get there. We're slowly getting there. But that's going to be a big benefit. I think that transporting them from place to place where the resources are is essential. And one of the things that we continue to see here in the high desert is that we don't have equal amount of resources as in LA, the LA basin. I do understand that the LA basin, it's very urban. A lot of people live there, 10 million people or so. So I get that the need is greater in the LA basin, but that does not mean that we up here don't have those type of needs as well. So for me, it's been a challenge trying to have the legislators in LA County recognize that we're LA County too. Palmdale, Lancaster, the High Desert, communities like Quartz Hills and other unincorporated areas are part of LA County. And every opportunity I have, I do mention to them that don't forget about us in the High Desert, particularly when they come up with ballot measures to tax us more. And that's something that I keep reminding them all the time. And because we had examples on how our money gets taken down to LA and barely anything makes it back. An example of that is Measure H. A few years ago, with the measure that the county passed to address homelessness, I was a council member at the time, the city of Palmdale, and between Palmdale and Lancaster, there were millions of dollars that we taxpayers contributed to that measure that went down to LA, and they just returned pennies on the dollar for us. So my point again being that those resources don't get equitably distributed. But to your question specifically for those individuals with disabilities, what that means again is that those resources just don't come back to that population. The transportation again is an issue, but again going back to where technology is taking us with the autonomous cars, and that's one way to provide that transportation. But we also have to look at public modes of transportation too. I still believe in high-speed rail. I still believe that we'll get there sometime, particularly because the state continues to invest in that project. Through Cap and Invest, there is $1 billion that is going to go to that project every year through that mechanism. But we also have to make sure that we are more focused in getting the start of that project where there is going to be ridership. One of the ways that I'm trying to get them to understand is that without ridership, there's not going to be a successful project. For whatever reasons, the decisions were made to start in the Central Valley, which is whatever that happened. But now we need to really show ridership. And to me, ridership is either Palmdale to LA or Modesto to the Bay Area, San Jose, or maybe all the way to San Francisco. My point saying that again is that a reliable system of public transit is what we also need to provide to the population that have those challenges too.
I think a lot of visitors to LA would definitely attest to that we need a more viable public transit system. So that makes a lot of sense to me. The other thing I guess I was wondering is what can we do to entice businesses and resources? What is currently being done to actually encourage more of that? We have a lot more homeowners that are wanting to settle down here because of housing prices. Absolutely, that makes a lot of sense and is trending in our community. With all that being said, you're absolutely right. There's still this huge issue, this huge barrier to getting what you need because the community doesn't fully have all of that.
There are other ways that we're working on in the legislature to be able to bring those resources across the state. Again, every opportunity I have, I do remind legislators across the state, Senate and Assembly, that resources need to be really spread out across the state. And one of those places where development can take off and opportunities is right here in the High Desert. Why? Because not only we have the high-speed rail, which I understand still has got its challenges, it's going to take some time, but we also have Brightline on the other side of the district that is going to go along the 15 freeway on the way to Vegas. That's another system that could bring that attention to the High Desert. And in between, we have the High Desert Corridor. Caltrans had made plans to build a freeway connecting the 14 freeway to the 15 for freight transport. And that also included a light rail component too. So that's another way to start linking those big projects and to have those investors, developers look at the opportunities that they can have here. You know, as a former city planner, I understand that we have to have the rooftops, as we call it, to be able to attract economic development. You know, the shopping centers, all of those things that are changing too. There's a new way to attract those type of businesses because kids now like to get everything via Amazon, right? That's something that they love to do that. And I see that every day in my house too. Every time I come home, there's a box by the door. I'm like, what is that? Oh, my daughter. Which is another way that changes are happening. But we're also looking at other infrastructure that could potentially come to the High Desert. And one of those sources of infrastructure is hydrogen. I still believe that hydrogen is possible to start doing that here in Lancaster. You may know that Lancaster has invested a lot in the hydrogen industry. Unfortunately, with what's going on at the federal level, the ARCHES program was taken away from California. Whatever 1.3 billion, whatever that amount was going to be, coming to the Long Beach airport, I believe it was, and then there was an opportunity to get some of that funding to come here to the Antelope Valley. I still believe that we'll be able to do something like that for the hydrogen industry, which again will open another opportunity, right? Because there's hydrogen cars, personal vehicles, there's the hydrogen trucks, and there's a lot of other infrastructure that could run with hydrogen. So I think that that's something that would be very beneficial for us up here. And I think we're going to be very close to breaking up some good news in the Antelope Valley soon.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Shifting gears a little bit, you authored AB 1694 this year to stabilize career technical education funding and to strengthen workforce pathways in schools. The question is, how do you see this bill helping build a more inclusive and equitable workforce pipeline
Yes.
as it also pertains to individuals with developmental disabilities?
Sure. I think that that's something that some of us realize in the legislature that we need to invest back in CTE. Why? Because we have an aging workforce in many different careers. I mean, you name it. There's people that are getting to that retirement age. And I did not go to high school here during the day. I did my high school education at night. But I keep hearing that back in the day, not too far long ago, we had those type of trainings in the classroom in the high school, whether it be in workshop, auto mechanics, home cooking, and
home ec.
Home ec, yeah, all of those programs that, to me, I see them essential for kids in school, not only because we are seeing a struggle on how we can provide education in California, right, because it's so expensive. And with our retiring age on many different fields, and the focus that we've had on making sure that everybody goes through a four-year college, which to me is unrealistic. That's not something that I would continue to focus on, and that was my struggle when I was in the Palmdale School District. And just to give you an example, I'm the oldest of 8. Only 3 of us went to school. 3 of us have a bachelor's degree and master's degrees, but we have student loans. My siblings that did not get a bachelor's degree does not mean that they are not productive citizens of the state or the nation, because they are business owners, they contribute to society in many different ways. What they don't have is student loans. That makes a big difference. So being able to provide other opportunities for students that for whatever reason decide not to get a 4-year degree, we continue to need doctors and engineers and all sorts of different professions, but we also need mechanics, we need plumbers, we need electricians. And in collaboration with the trades, getting those career technical centers or apprenticeships is what they call them. That's a way that, again, those students that for whatever reason don't want to go to college, they can get a training through an apprenticeship program, and they have very, very good paying jobs, very successful programs that they have. And again, with all the infrastructure that we keep talking about in California, we need a workforce for that sector too. Again, I'm not saying that you shouldn't go to get a 4-year degree, but those that don't want to do it or can't afford to do it, there are the pathways in the CT programs, bringing those back to the high schools and working with the trades and the labor unions. Those apprenticeship programs can be successful. Bringing money from the state to get that restarted. I think I can use that word, restarted those programs that I call at the high school level or college. I think that that's something that we need to invest. And this legislation that I'm doing, AB 1694, is just trying to help get that going again. And hopefully those other legislators that believe that we need to start looking at other ways to provide opportunities for students and for the young kids, I think that that's something that we, the state, are looking at doing that in different ways.
I think this makes a lot of sense. I mean, I often wonder, I have younger kids, and I often wonder, one, it's going to be so expensive sending them off to college, right? But when I look at them, I'm like, I'm not even sure if that's something that they would want to do. I mean, there's so many different pathways, so we don't want to just segue somebody into something, especially when the hands-on training is just so much more important. That experience, I would say, sometimes trumps the academic experience, right? Because it's that applied learning that is so essential. So I absolutely love the career technical education, all these programs. I guess what I'm wondering is how might this also help our community, the developmentally disabled, access more jobs as well?
It does help him because I actually went to visit a site in the Victor Valley side where they had this population be able to do manual things. And when I was looking at the way that they were, doing their assignments, their work assignments, some of them really looked like they were enjoying being on their own by themselves. Everybody has different challenges, right?
Sure.
Some are very social. Some have they want to be very private. They want to be bothered. So you give them the assignments that they feel comfortable with, putting things together. Some of them were really happy talking to other workers, colleagues. And what that said to me is that if we are able to provide those opportunities for this population, they will grow internally, and they will feel more acceptable in society because they would feel that they're providing something on their own. And what I noticed is that they were being proud of what they were doing. And like I said, those that have different levels of challenges, those that want to be left alone, they were just doing their own thing and being productive. There were other ones that were shining, like any coworkers in many other fields are, and I noticed that they feel happy to do that. They explained to me that the program actually picked them up from home. They had a van that went from home to home, picking them up and then bring them to the site for them to do the work day. And then at the end of the day, they would do the same. They just deliver them back to their homes. And that's also something that I think we need to keep investing on, because the infrastructure, again, that is for those type of services, the population, the vehicles, right? You need a van to be able to pick them up, bring them up, and then take them back. And the investment on the infrastructure is important to me too, and also keep supporting those centers. And again, going back to what we have here in the high desert, the aerospace industry, there's a lot of little things that are needed to build a plane. And
Absolutely.
some of those things that they were putting together were actually for that industry. So that's another way that I think we should keep investing in that and growing the centers too, because the population keeps growing too. And they start small. They start in a small little factory, maybe the size of this room. And as there's attention and more parents know about this type of opportunities for them, they need to expand. So that's another thing that we can also be mindful that investing in that type of infrastructure will improve the quality of lives of that population.
We are such huge proponents of employment for all. We have supported employment programs. We have paid internship programs because we know how important employment is to everybody.
Right.
So I know for me, if I did not have a job or this job, I would not have as much of a sense of purpose, right? I wake up, I know exactly what I'm going to do, how I contribute. Paycheck means something to me because it shows that I have value to the community. So absolutely, it speaks to our developmentally disabled community as well. And I agree with you. I think sometimes when we reach out to those in our community, it is harder for them, let's just say, to go to a 4-year college program, whatever it might be, than to actually receive specified training to do specified work that they can really excel at and still build community. So I really love everything about your answer. You also serve, and I've said this a couple times already, another committee, the Select Committee on Serving Students with Disabilities. Now, many of our families often share a lot of concerns when their children move from transition schools into adulthood. And so it's that nebulous period of, are they prepared to enter adulthood? What does that look like? What does the support look like? How can we make sure they're still increasingly independent? All of those things. And our question is, what priorities are you currently focused on, and what changes do you think are still needed to ensure a successful transition into adulthood for our population?
I think that with what we experienced in COVID, I think that that really put us back in various aspects. We lived through it as adults. My kids were little; they were in first grade, and keeping them focused in a classroom is difficult. And we were all at home trying to do the best through that time, and just watching them being in a little screen like this,
It's really sad.
a Chromebook that they provided them, it was really difficult for, I can imagine the teachers, but the kids too. And us being at home just because we had to, because of the situation we're living in, it makes it very difficult for kids and adults to continue to grow mentally. So the mental health is a real thing, and we continue to invest in that. I talk to teachers, and they come to us, and I ask them that question. I mean, are we really getting to where we were before COVID with our students? And the answer is we're not there yet. So for this population being, to a younger mental state, being adults, being growing up, in
Sure.
teenagers and in adulthood, but the mental attention is the same of a 10-year-old or different ages, but it goes to that same challenge of having kids and adults and growing adults and this population with disabilities. That is just a reality that we know is still happening at the state level. The governor continues to be supportive. There's a lot of money that is put into that type of aid for mental health. I think it's a combination. Have been able to provide them that mental health need that they're required for them to continue to grow. But there's also the other aspect that we just talked about, having them do the physical manual work that they feel happy doing. I think that it goes hand in hand. Also, getting more teachers that specialize in
Yes.
special needs of students. That's another challenge because teachers are not appreciated for the hard work that they do. And having these disabilities, teachers that have to work with disabled children, young adults, makes it even more challenging physically too for them. My wife actually is a teacher. She's a substitute teacher now in the Palmer School District, and she's going to classes for disabled students. And the physical needs for the teachers are obviously there too, because they have to also be very careful on how they handle those situations too. So training for the workforce, the teachers, is a challenge. And these days, not a lot of young teachers coming into the field want to deal with that too. There's not enough pay for them, the physical needs that they have to do, the emotional needs, and I think that we have to really keep investing and having in mind that there's different challenges because of the special needs and special attention that the population needs. But again, I believe that we're doing a good job in providing the resources, but then the challenges again is how do we get the workforce to be able to do that, right? Yeah.
It's always an ongoing challenge. You're an advocate on issues like housing and healthcare. When you hear directly from your constituents, what challenges stand out most, and how do these experiences shape your priorities and decisions when you're up in Sacramento?
When we do town halls or go to events and invite young people to come talk to us, there was one event where a bunch of young people came to the event, and we heard from two of them that showed their frustration and how they feel that somehow we failed them. And that's also something that I live personally because my daughter is 28, and they both of them, my daughter and her partner, they both have an education, they have a degree, and they cannot afford to buy a house.
Mm-hmm.
Here in Palmdale, a one-bedroom apartment is like $1,800. Mortgage, it's like $3,000-$4,000. And in order for you to be able to get into a mortgage, you got to have 20% down or 10%, depending on different programs, right? So these young people that came to the event, they voiced their frustration, how they feel that they don't have an opportunity to achieve the American dream, which is your home ownership. And the way that everything is so expensive, not only housing, the affordability issue is something that is very clear nationwide, but here in California particularly because we have higher energy prices. The price of gas is much higher. Utilities continue to skyrocket. And they were just feeling that what's the point in having to go to college, be in debt, and get into a job that is going to pay them $25, $30 an hour. Unless they continue to invest in their education, which continues to be costly. If you
Sure.
go to a master's degree, that's more
More
student debt, more debt. So she expressed that they feel like that there is no way out of where we are currently right now. And that's where we need to step it up too in California. The cost of building a home continues to skyrocket because the labor is expensive, the materials are expensive, the land is expensive, not to mention the red tape that we in the legislature have put in the past because of how costly it is to go through a permitting process
Yep.
to build a house. Not to mention to build an apartment complex because it even takes a lot longer to do that. Nevertheless, we're working on that. We actually have a legislative package to look into modular housing, factory home building. That is more economic to do, but there has to be different paths to be able to have that type of home industry be able to produce the housing units that we need. It'll be more affordable. But there's also challenges for those small factories that actually exist in our backyards. There's actually one in Palmdale. They build modular homes. They don't use lumber. They use all metal. But if you can imagine a factory, in this case, steel comes from one end and a housing unit comes the other end. It's pretty cool to see that, but they need to have the support from us in the legislature, the state, for them to be able to stay open. And the way they're going to do that is if they produce more units. And that's something that we in California just don't seem to invest in because some people don't think it's the same quality of housing, when in reality it is. So that's something that we're looking at doing here in the state.
I will say that look, the industrial look. I mean, some people just prefer that look. So
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
I wouldn't be opposed to something like that. Many in our community are very, very worried about perhaps the outcomes of the May revise of the governor's budget. What would you say to these individuals and families who are worried about these changes and what it might mean for their care and their stability? Is there, I feel like what I've heard the community say is, we just want to know already, right? Because the not knowing causes more anxiety. So at least if we know the devil that we're working with, at least there's that.
Yeah. It's going to be a tough year and maybe a couple more years with the budget in the state. But there is also a sign that the revenue keeps growing too. It is not to a point where we will have a balanced budget, within the next 2 or 3 years, unless the governor surprises us in May 15 or May 14, whatever day that is going to be. But it is a reality that we have to face. I think that what the federal government is doing to us in California is very vivid. The attacks that they continue to do on us just because we are California. But nevertheless, we believe that we will get through it, and we'll get through it. Yes, there's going to be some drastic budgetary cuts. We are not trying to make it just to one side of the needs of the state, education, since we're talking about education. That's not how I see us legislators agreeing with the governor. There is a process, a legislative process, that we can also be able to, whatever the governor is proposing on May 14, we also can say, hey, no, we need to keep investing in education because that's what we promised to do. And we just have to find a way to be equitable in finding a way to make cuts across the way that are going to be fair instead of targeting education only. And Prop 98 has, it has to stay for education. We all know that. And we will continue to fight for what we promised when Prop 98 passed many years ago. Sure. Nevertheless, we still believe in education being the foundation for growth in the state and to continue to be the fourth largest economy in the world. I mean, that means something to us. We have to continue to do that. And the foundation is education. And not to forget about the other needs, special needs in education, because that's, again, something that we have to be mindful and about providing equal opportunities across the education.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So we are at our last question. And my last question
Sure.
always with the individuals that I meet is the jobs that we do can be very, very difficult. So I'm very curious as to what you do in your free time that is just for you, that helps you to recharge, helps you to continue to do this great work that is needed.
Yeah. You know, I really enjoy what I do. And if we don't enjoy what we do, then I believe we should find something else to do. I'm very passionate about what I do in the legislature, particularly because the region that I represent has needs that other places don't have. We're very unique. And for me, being able to bring resources to the district is really what motivates me to keep going. The opportunities that we have is something that I really look forward to. The challenges are going to exist always, no matter what, but we tend to not see the positive of whatever we do, right? So for me, focusing on the opportunities that we have, because we will be looked at by the development community, because this is the next frontier. That's how I'd like to refer to the high desert, is the next frontier, because once we are able to get the resources that we need, the transportation investments, the education investments, I mean, even with the aerospace industry that continues to be here, that continues to get attention for our region. But to answer your question, you know, I'm a soccer fanatic, but I don't watch as much anymore as I used to because of the job demands. But I like to watch soccer every now and then and keep up with my team, see how they're doing. And I enjoy going to see the AV Alta, the soccer team in Lancaster. And that's something that I just enjoy doing whenever I can.
You must be so excited the World Cup is here.
It is
in
here.
Los Angeles.
It is here. June 11th starts in Mexico City, the opening game. Then it comes here to LA and then San Francisco. Those two locations in California, we're going to have some good soccer matches, hopefully. But yeah, and in fact, that's going to be my third World Cup as a host country.
Okay.
1986 in Mexico, I was 14 years old maybe, and then 1994 in the U.S., and then here again. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Very cool. I think the saying is what? Soccer is life.
Soccer is life. Soccer unites us too. Yeah.
I appreciate that. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you. Really enjoyed the conversation.
It's really great.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you.